This is Technically Legal, a podcast about legal technology, innovation in the legal industry, and the impact tech is having on the law. On this episode, I talked to Litera's Haley Altman about the company's new software offering, Foundation Dragon. That's an app that helps legal professionals advise clients based on market insights automatically drawn from the firm's existing data and prior deal points. This is a repeat appearance for today's guest, Haley Altman. Way back in 2018, we had her on the podcast to discuss the company she had recently launched called Doxly. Haley founded Doxly in 2016, and it's a cloud-based app that helps automate processes involved in closing M&A deals. A lot has happened since the last time she and I talked. In 2019, Haley and her team sold Doxly to legal tech software company Litera. And she too joined Litera and is now currently serving as a strategic advisor to the company. One of the initiatives Haley is heavily involved in at Litera is the recent launch of an AI product called Foundation Dragon. Foundation Dragon is an app that connects to a law firm's other software like document management systems and experience software. And once it's connected, it grabs information from all those places. It enables law firm users to enter into contract negotiations on behalf of their clients from a position of strength because it gathers data from all the law firm's system. Among other things, it helps lawyers understand what opposing counsel have agreed to in the past. It can tell them industry standards about the current provisions in a contract being negotiated. It can also help find precedents across a law firm to figure out what colleagues are using in their negotiations. As I mentioned, Haley joined Litera after founding Doxly, but before that, she was a deal lawyer with Ice Miller. Interestingly, at the time Doxly was acquired, it was only 3 years old and was still growing. In fact, Haley had a Series A lined up. But after she and her team weighed all the pros and cons of raising more money or going the acquisition route, she decided it was best for their customers and the company itself to join Litera.
Well, I think one of the things that is, they already have a deeply ingrained customer base. And so we could work with those customers. We'd have more resources to expand. There was a global expansion component to it. There was ability to have the additional security and scale that comes from having a large company with, and we are dealing with extremely sensitive documents. When you're talking about data rooms, when you're talking about deal documents and closing books, you have all of the firm's critical information. So being able to plug into a larger existing infrastructure to really kind of take the application to the next level in both of different transaction types that we wanted. We were kind of primarily M&A and venture capital. We were able to really expand into more credit and other types of deals that had, a little bit of different kind of structure to them. And so I think we just saw it as an opportunity to really accelerate what we were doing. And honestly, the deal made sense for us. And so it made everyone happy. And so we all felt really good about what the potential was and where we could take it. So I think when we looked at it and looked at kind of like sales cycles and things like that as a small company, what we could do and where we could go with it, it was great. And, we had an amazing board that came to us through working with High Alpha, the venture studio, that they had a lot of experience in marketing tech and other, kind of technology that was more horizontal, and working with people that understood the legal industry, understood pricing and packaging, understood kind of how you needed to build into these different secure systems, integrating with DMS systems and things like that. We just felt like at the whole, it gave us the best opportunity to really take things forward.
How big was the team at Doxly at the time of acquisition?
10.
Oh, wow.
We were a small, but it was one of those crazy things. We went on this really amazing journey, and I think everyone thought we just worked so hard, and I think everyone thought we were so much bigger of a team than we were because we were just everyone was so passionate and dedicated. And it will be an experience that I don't know that I could ever really replicate because everyone just bought into the vision. Only 2 of us were really from legal when we started the company. Everyone just really loved the vision, and it's we had people that are just willing to really dedicate to delivering and cared about the customers, cared about their experience, and so we were able to just accomplish so much. I mean, we still actually get together, all of us, even as we've gone in different directions. In some instances, some are still at Litera. We still get together as a team because it was such a great experience.
What did you learn from that process? What would you, if someone came to you and said, hey, we've got an opportunity to keep raising money or sell our business, what did you learn from that? What would you tell that person?
I've learned a lot. In all honesty, I was a venture capital attorney, so I love venture capital and I love working with investors, and I think the space is really great. But I think what people need to be mindful of is every time you raise capital, you're setting a valuation and putting a marker out there that you have to exceed in order to exit. And in legal, sales cycles are typically longer. The ARR growth is not always going to be the quickest. You're going to see in some of this with GenAI, like people seem to explode. But, and I can say this from when I took over all of acquisitions for Litera, I've now seen it from both angles, like what it is when you're raising capital, and what you need to do to position yourself for exit. And where I've seen a lot of companies like kind of struggle is like when you keep raising capital, you get excited about getting these higher valuations and doing this. But in some instances, you're actually setting up the company from being unable to exit because those kind of artificial numbers that tie more into the venture capital space of, oh, we're going to have like this huge multiple on ARR that we're going to raise that and it's great. Well, strategic acquirers are acquiring at a 5 to 7x ARR rate. So like you kind of quickly outsize yourself for what you're able to exit at when you keep doing venture rounds that typically raise at a multiple that's much higher than what you can exit. It can set you up for difficulty down the road. So if you have the opportunity to have a really strong exit and continue on with the company and see potential upside in the future, I think it's something that's worth evaluating and understanding. I mean, exits have their own complexity and things like that, but it is at every time you're doing a capital raise, I think it's always important to look and think through what the exit looks like. Who are your buyers? Who are you pricing yourself out of by going through that raise? Like each raise actually puts you into like now only this buyer could really buy you, or that now I have to go this direction in terms of exiting. And so I think it's really important. That would be my biggest advice to founders is actually just like sit down and look at those different inflection points and really think through where this potentially takes you. You build a company because you love it and the product means something and it has the potential to do something valuable. You build something because you're passionate about it, and that's what gets you up and gets you through the incredible roller coaster of running a startup, because it's hard. It's super, super hard, and it has really great and tough moments. But you do have to know that there is some sort of exit. You're not imagining the exit on day one, but you should strategically think through how the capital raises and those different inflection points impact your ability to, kind of exit the business at some point.
So you mentioned Foundation. That's why we're here to talk today. It was acquired by Litera in 2021, I should say. For listeners, and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, Foundation software, the best way to look at it, it's like a CAM platform, a practice platform. Like I think at the time, it was described as an experience management platform.
Yeah, so Foundation was really kind of that experience management platform is how we describe it. So you think about it, it's like firm has all of this different data. They have data on their clients, the people, the matters they've worked on, and it's like all in different systems. And so, you had to go different places to see like, what did we bill for, this matter for Google? What was the average realization rate for, this practice area? So all this information, or like, what clients do we work for? What people are in which practice area in the firm? So if I need to find someone to do work on a deal, how do I find the transactional attorneys that have experience in the US? So what they did was they built this amazing system to collect all of that information. So you could actually kind of go to one place. They piped in information through their integration hub from financial systems, HR systems, CRMs, to bring it all in one place to give you that view of the matter. So now you can understand at a client level, what are all the matters we're actively working on? What's the financial metrics around everything? What people worked on it? Like, how do you segment and slice and dice it? What was kind of amazing about the system and how it's continued to grow is that they built tons of flexibility. They knew each firm wanted to profile matters and showcase different features. So they made it so firms could track the information on the matter profile, create all these kind of custom profiles that would showcase information in the way that they wanted to consume it. And that flexibility allowed people to start building matter profiles out that would even include deal points from the transactions themselves. And so it's kind of expanded from what would originally have been an experience management marketing business development tool to help you understand like who knows who to win work and what matters have we worked on so we can pitch for work, into a knowledge management platform as well, because now it can pull all the information not only on the clients and who worked on the matters, but what those matters actually contained. Like, so what is all that information? So it really starts to bring a lot of information together from all these different systems So you get that kind of full view of what the firm's experience is.
And so recently you've added an AI piece, Dragon, and it's specifically geared toward harnessing the information that's in Foundation to help you better represent your clients, specifically in transactional matters.
So Dragon is a separate product. So Dragon is an extraction engine that can pair with the firm's document management system to bring like the closing documents to a transaction into it. It automatically extracts the relevant deal points for that transaction type and gives you a full view of what happened in the documents. Then can take that data, pair it back with Foundation. So now you have a full view of the method. Not only do you know who worked on it, what industry, who was opposing counsel, now you compare all of that information with the granular deal data, purchase price, was it rep and warranty insurance, and all these kind of more granular points. So we've been able to say, okay, let's take all this critical information that lives in documents and lawyers' heads and pair it with like kind of larger firm information so we can kind of give you that picture. And so Dragon works to bring that information that kind of was previously kind of locked away or more difficult to get, and then it pairs it with Foundation. And then we built an insights engine into Dragon so that you could slice and dice the information in all these really interesting ways.
Let's talk about what's going under the hood and talk about how it's built. What AI model is it using, or what is the AI technology it's using, and where is it grabbing its data? Obviously, you said document management system, so it obviously connects to those. Like, how does it work?
So I think one of the things that was really important is we wanted to understand like how documents work. I think a lot of people are looking at GenAI and you throw a document in and you can get a summary of it, or you can find out specific pieces of information. But when you're talking about transaction agreements that are, hundreds of pages long, that have, defined terms in one section, that they're not always in the same place, and the context of each of the documents is different. We actually wanted to build first like a kind of a way of understanding the agreement. So we actually are tracking on M&A documents, we're tracking over 300 deal points. So if you're asking 300 deal points of a document in, a single go with an LLM, it's not going to give you accurate results across all these different data points. So we had to understand how you could actually look to extract each of these deal points. And so we do leverage, Azure OpenAI in order to do some of the extraction work, but we do a lot of different techniques to both understand the document and different algorithms and natural language processing as well. We wanted to really make sure that we understood and could accurately grab these data points from the document. So there's a lot of work that actually goes into Dragon before the LLM even comes into play. And I think that allows us to not only increase the accuracy of the results, but it allows us to do one other important component. We can actually verify the answers with text from the document that we've brought together in order to answer a question, because sometimes the question involves information from more than one section. So we'll actually show you every section we looked at to bring the information so people, when they're reviewing our extraction, can actually verify it from there. So we are connecting the information in from the DMS. We're not our own document storage system. We're allowing you to process the information, create a clear understanding of what's in the document, and then we give people the tools to easily and quickly verify it because, as an attorney, I live in that world of trust but verify.
Speaking of which, that's a great setup for the question I had for you because, you're consumers attorneys, you are an attorney, it's used by attorneys. The question you're going to get, you say you're using Azure for the AI piece. Privacy, data security-wise, what do you tell the customer, or how are you protecting that information so that they feel good that, you've got access to my DMS system? How do I know that that's not being used to train the model or getting out there in the world?
Well, that was one of the core things that we were building. We don't train any model with the data. That was like the core tenet of it. We train our system, like how we look for the information, how we search for the information. So even if there's a data point that for a single document, like it says it's corrected, for some reason, like our interpretation of what they were looking for isn't, it didn't get it quite right. There was a nuance that we missed. Even when they put in that it's corrected, we are not learning from their correction. We don't know what they corrected or why they corrected it or what they were thinking. We take an aggregate look at each field and look at the accuracy rating on a field level, and then we go back and we adjust if the accuracy level needs to be improved, but it's not based on training anyone's data. So that's our first core tenet. So we don't train any model based on someone's data. We actually don't look in at their data at all from our perspective. So we're not looking at it or learning from it. Anything we do is training on our own. We'll talk to the customers and get feedback, but that's a separate thing. when we look at the document, we're not even sending all of the documents. So we have all these different techniques of how we look at the information. So at each step, we're looking at how do we securely protect information from going there. We have all the security things in place so that our data doesn't stay, it doesn't train their LLM. So we have all the agreements in place to ensure that like the data that we're using to do the extraction doesn't train any model, doesn't stay anywhere, is really kind of compartmentalized. So we go through all these different, kind of security buckets to protect the information because that is critically important. And then our system itself is built on a premise that we are not training any model with your data. And I think that's an important thing for firms to definitely verify with their vendors because like that is so important that it's not being trained with client confidential information.
When we come back in just a couple minutes, Haley tells us how Foundation Dragon was developed within an internal incubator in the company. She also fills us in on the features of Dragon and how using Dragon and Foundation together can help win new work and formulate effective pitches. I'm Chad Main, and you're listening to Technically Legal. We'll get back to my conversation with Haley Altman in just a second, but I want to direct you to tlpodcast.com. On that website, you'll find an episode page for every episode we've done, including today's. And on those pages, you can find more information about our guests, how to get a hold of them, and links to some of the stuff we talk about. If you want to get a hold of me, you can email me at cmain@percipient.co. That's CMAIN@percipient.co. Or you can always catch me on LinkedIn and X. All right, let's get back to my conversation with Litera's Haley Altman. She's just about to explain how Foundation Dragon was developed internally by an incubator within the company.
So Brett Balmer, who was the founder and CTO of Foundation, also built Interaction, just a genius in like building technology specific for the legal industry. He and I were both like kind of advisors to Litera, but in our own kind of separate way. But so we partnered with Litera and a team inside Litera to build the GenAI products for Litera. So we partner with them, we work with the team, and we have our own kind of setup inside the organization because large organizations, they have entire roadmaps that they need to deliver for their customers. And it's extremely important that they continue on that pathway and meet the customer's needs. But we saw an opportunity to say, okay, we can build something new that can fit into the value propositions that we already want to bring. We know that Foundation is being used to create these matter profiles. The problem is it's manual data entry. You've solved like a data consistency problem that can live in deal databases, but you still have manual data entry and you have completion, both accuracy and completion issues. So we understood that Foundation had this amazing framework to like kind of host the data for the matter. So we're like, if we could take a team that could be dedicated and focused and understood the problem. And so you pair someone that understands firm databases, security, and information like Brett, and my understanding of legal and deals and transactions and the points that live in them. And then you pair them with like great engineers from Litera, we're able to really move quickly and bring an entire new product to market in, a really short time frame. But and we got to work with really great customers. So then we partnered with customers to bring it to market. So it's been a really cool way to like build something securely, creatively, and quickly.
When did you start developing it?
We started working with our customers in like October. So it's been like a great process of working with them, working with Litera to build things out. So it's been a great process.
So fairly recent, though. I mean,
Yeah.
It's only a few months ago. That's great. So let's talk about the features themselves. There's three things that kind of jumped out at me. So number one is if you use Foundation Dragon, it can help you negotiate, give you a position and maybe strength in negotiation. Another cool thing is it'll tell you industry standards about certain clauses. I thought that was interesting. And another thing, it helps you search within your own firm to find the precedents your firm has been using and advising clients on. So we'll talk about those each kind of individually. So this is specifically is the quote about strategic negotiations. I think I found this on the website, or maybe it was in the press release. It says, now you can have solid data for strategic negotiations with better outcomes for clients, including knowing what opposing counsel has started with and agreed to in the past. Your experience has turned into actionable data during negotiations to drive provable value. How does that work? How do you know that, all right, opposing counsel suggested this, but before in a prior deal, they've agreed to this?
So by being able to extract all these data points from the documents, but also pairing it with the experience data that's in Foundation, we know for each matter who the opposing counsel was. And we now know what the data points were for that document. So with our Insights platform, we're able to say, okay, if I want to put in a filter on opposing counsel, so let's say I used to work at Ice Miller, so let's say I'm opposite Ice Miller today. So I want to understand how they've negotiated. I use the opposing household filter. I select Ice Miller, and then I can now see every deal in our database that we have done in this specific transaction type against Ice Miller. I could go further and apply different filters if I want to make sure I'm even looking at the same industry, or maybe I want to look at similar deal sizes. And so then I can see from the data set they have, how have they negotiated each of these provisions? So let's say they've come back to us and say, the deal is about $75 million. We don't do rep and warranty insurance for a deal of that size. It needs to be larger. That's just the way it is. So I can go back and let's say in the past, 12 to 18 months, we've done 10 deals against Ice Miller of that similar size. I can go in and see, okay, in how many of those deals was there rep and warranty insurance? And so we'll give you the data visualization on that, but you can actually look at the deal points across the different documents and see, okay, which deals did they give rep and warranty insurance? What were the other data points? So is there maybe a reason that they gave it in some of these deals that wouldn't be relevant to us? So we give you the ability to go back to them and say, hey, in the last 10 deals that we've done that are about this size, you had rep and warranty insurance in 7 of them. This is going to be something that's important to our client. We expect to see this in. We think the market bears it. We think we've seen this in deals that we've done together. And so it gives you the ability to say, this is a provision that we're going to stand behind, and we have the data to back it up. Also, if someone says, I've gotten this a number of times I was practicing, we have never given a knowledge qualifier on this rep. And it's like, never? Like, really never? Like, that's a good one. That's like, so we call someone, when I was explaining this to one of the partners that was testing the system, he's like, it's like the shenanigans button. He's like, you built us a shenanigans button, where we basically like, there's no way that's true. And normally we send a pardon the interruption email and ask everyone, and someone's like, oh no, I can totally tell you the times that they've given a knowledge qualifier. Well, here you could actually see it. So you can slice and dice the information to get to that and understand how things are positioned. I think the other thing that's important, like let's say I'm doing a bank deal against a bank that is lending the money, and a client wants to argue governing law. They don't want it to be New York. They want it to be Delaware because that's where they're incorporated. And let's say the bank in the past 50 deals has never agreed to governing law that isn't New York. That is not where I should spend my negotiation capital. I should focus my client on the points that are going to add value and really help and mean something to them. So if I know that this is a non-negotiable for this, even this party, whether it's a council or party, I now know that that's not where we're going to focus. We're going to really kind of drill on things that will add value, get the client what they want, but live in the realm of where there is ability and flexibility in the negotiation. So being able to see that, being able to see data and understand it at the level, a lot of times this is just stuff that's lived in our head. Yeah, no, that doesn't seem right. Like, or I generally, anecdotally, I know that they're not going to change governing law, but it's much easier to go back to the client and say, hey, they really don't waver on this point, but here are places that we really think we can like make an improvement. And that gives you that ability to drive better results for your clients then.
One of the other things it does is gives you industry standard information about various causes. How are you getting that data?
From that perspective, we're taking all the aggregate information. And so like I was presenting at the ABA M&A committee in Laguna Beach. And so I took all the deals from 2023 that would met their standards and I ran them through Dragon. And so the question was, rep and warranty insurance was on the incline from 2019 to 2021, just increasing year over year. 2022, first time it dropped precipitously. And that was kind of a market shift between who had more power, sellers or buyers. Sellers were on a total power streak. Valuation multiples were crazy. It was amazing. And then in 2022, market dynamics shifted. Buyers had a lot more control. So you saw rep and warranty insurance decline. So the question was in 2023, decline or go up? It declined slightly, but we were able to say, okay, look at across all of these deals, how many have rep and warranty insurance versus not. Then we could actually take it one step further and we could slice and dice it based on size of deal. So now we could say, okay, look, even though it's more common to not have rep and warranty insurance on an aggregate basis, let's look at it for larger deals versus smaller deals. If you looked at deals under 100 million, heavily weighted to no rep and warranty insurance. And that makes sense because it's expensive and it's not worth it. Higher level deals, now you shift it. you shifted to C, still more predominantly more rep and warranty. So we could actually now look at it from a market perspective. And so if a client called and said, hey, what's market for rep and warranty insurance? We could actually, it's not just the global amount. It's like, oh, if you have a $300 million deal, you know what? It's a little bit more market to have it as opposed to not. Similar with like an earnout provision. Earnouts are typically, you see them more in smaller deals than larger deals, because if you're paying $400 million up front, you're not necessarily worrying about a earnout on the back end of it. But if it's a $50 million deal, it may be more where you're going to say, no, I want to have upside on this because I'm letting you buy in earlier. And so we're able to take all this information, looking at a larger data set and drilling in. But I think what's really interesting is, I did practice in the Midwest, and we did a lot of regional private equity deals. The deals that we saw, the type of industries we were working with, were different than the coastal deals. So if I looked at market standards for PE deals that would be in New York or in San Francisco, I would have a lot of different information than if I was looking at PE manufacturing deals in the Midwest. So by giving a firm an ability to create a deal database around their own data with their own industries, you can actually figure out what's market for the client you're serving. Isn't helpful to know what the multiples are on deals that are coastal when you're in a Midwest context, or if you're in agriculture versus SaaS, like those terms are different. And so by giving people the ability to kind of create this information and then look into it, you can understand what's market for what's relevant to your client.
So I think you answered my question. I was going to ask is, to get these industry standard benchmarks, it's pulling from your firm's data, right?
Yeah.
Then I was going to ask, well, that's limited by what your firms are doing. Then it dawned on me. I'm sure a lot of you customers are analog 200, 100 plus. So it's a pretty accurate representation of that information. Yeah, interesting. Related to that too, then, is another thing that Dragon allows you to do is find precedents from your firm. Why is that important? How does that work?
Well, when you're thinking about drafting a document, a lot of M&A and credit and things like that, they're not exactly template driven, because it's driven by maybe M&A for life science companies has a slightly different starting point than M&A for a SaaS deal, because there's different rep and warranties that are going to be in it. So if I'm starting from a new agreement, I want to start for the one that is closest to what the terms are in my term sheet. So if I know that my deal is, $150 million, I know that it has an earnout, it doesn't have a rollover, it is a separate sign and close, it's got certain fundamental reps, it has liability caps that relate to tax and IP. I can actually input all of those things into Dragon, and it will tell me all the deals we've done that have those exact features in them. So then I can look at, let's say I found 5 deals that have the same exact terms that my term sheet had in them. I can actually compare those deals in a comparison view and look on a deal point by deal point basis and understand the information and say, okay, this deal, actually even across all the other metrics, is going to be the best one. This is, we're buy side, and in this deal we were buy side. So it's going to have, and I've got some notes that maybe this was a more favorable transaction to the buyer. So I can actually understand the starting point, because if you can start with a document that already includes those key features that are relevant to your client and tailored to kind of the situation that you have, you can actually start from a better drafting position in order to kind of meet the client's needs. Another thing in M&A, a lot of times we're working really quickly. Like we need to get things out. Deals have timelines, like your no-shop provision expires within a certain number of weeks. So getting that first version out and getting it to the client and getting it to opposing counsel effectively and efficiently is really important. And so having that right starting point really gives you an edge in kind of moving forward through the process.
Did I miss any features we should talk about?
I think the ability to connect all this information into Foundation, so then it makes your Foundation matter profile even more powerful. So if I'm in Foundation and I'm looking to find a new matter, like we're trying to pitch for work. So we've talked a lot about how Dragon can help you with doing the work, but Dragon combined with Foundation helps you win new work. Because if I can go to a client and say, we've done 64 of a similar type of this deal in the past 12 months, we know the features, we have people that are really experienced in it, we're going to put a team together who's, so now I can take the people component of Foundation who's worked on these types of matters. Now Dragon tells us how many we've done of this very specific set. And then the final piece is, since Foundation can pull in the pricing information, when I go to pitch for that work, I have my representative matters list because I already know that from Dragon. I know who to build out in the team for the proposal because I know who's worked on all those matters because Foundation's told me. And now I can actually look at what the pricing and budgeting was on those representative matters. So I can say, okay, this deal has these exact similar features. I know an earnout is always more difficult to negotiate. It always takes more time. So I want to look at a budget for a deal that has those similar features because I know that they have these kind of components in terms of how long it takes to negotiate those and the diligence that might go with those other features as well. And now I can use all that information to say in that RFP, this is the budget we're going to suggest. So the information of Dragon paired with the information of Foundation can be really powerful in terms of not only doing the work and figuring out who in the team should do the work for the new project, but also how do I win the work and put together the best pitch that I can using all of this information.
Haley, that's really cool. This is good information. That's cool. You're pulling, instead of just looking at, hey, what's in this contract in front of me, you're getting all sorts of information. That's cool. So people want to learn more about Foundation Dragon or Litera or Foundation in general. Where do you want to send them?
Well, they can go to litera.com and schedule a demo, or I would love to show what we're doing and how it can help benefit the firm.
And if people want to get a hold of you, where do you want them to go?
They can message me through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and they can send me a message that way.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode. As always, we really appreciate you listening. If you want to subscribe, you can find us on most major podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, etc. Also, if you like us enough, I hope you leave us a favorable review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, this has been Technically Legal.